Hello, EnderSword here again, this time with a Bronze League game. It's going to be featuring our Terran player Damsen, who posted this up on the TeamLiquid.net strategy forums, basically a little frustrated with how he played this game and basically complaining that he hasn't gotten really a lot better since he started SC2, so he wanted some advice on what he was doing wrong. His opponent for today is going to be the Zerg player Tenno down here in the bottom right-hand side. And we're kind of going to see him just walk all over Damsen a little bit, which is pretty obvious from this. But we're going to take a look at the key factors why this is going to be meant for quite low players, new players maybe just getting into the game, or people that have just been stuck in bronze for a long time. So the first thing that we're going to look at as a deciding factor in this game is, number one, use control groups. I noticed that throughout this game, Damsen actually does not end up using any of his control groups, whereas we can see that already the Zerg player has decided to hotkey his hatchery there, hotkey an overlord. He's going to add different things for different parts of his army and so on throughout the game, but the Terran player actually does not do this at any point, and we'll see a few areas where he just doesn't have any control over anything and very simple tasks become hard to do. The second thing that we're going to look at is the idea of using facilities that you make. So there are times that he's making something like, say, a barracks, an engineering base, something like that, that is not always being used despite having money to use it. And sometimes things are built too early or too aggressively for what he then follows up with and so on. So it's not actually a cohesive strategy that's working together there. The third thing that we're going to look at is the idea of spending your money on what will help you spend your money. A lot of people don't think in that sense. They say, okay, I've got a lot of minerals right now, so I'm going to make a bunch of marines, I'm going to make a bunch of medevacs, I'm going to do something. Well, when you've got too many minerals, you hit a certain point, you're going to actually want to be adding more production. So spending some of that money on something that's going to continue to help you spend even more money in the future, because you're not going to mine any less than you are. You're just going to keep expanding that. So you want to get that out so that you can actually get your money out and spent. So fairly standard opening going on here. He did go for 2 gases early, and I don't know if he knows. A lot of new players may not really know if they don't really read a lot. You want to be putting 3 SCVs, 3 of your workers on each gas. Right now he's just got 1 on this refinery and 2 on this refinery. You would think maybe, oh, it's just a mistake for now, but they actually kind of stay that way throughout the entire game. He ends up with 2 and 2. So this, even though it looks like they're kind of trading 1 in, 1 out sort of thing, it's actually optimal with 3. So you do want to continue to make more than that. Just in terms of positioning here, part of the reason that we wall off like this against Zerg is to prevent Ling run-bys or just quick attacks that can come out of the Zerg player. So you generally don't want your Marines out in front on the ramp like this. You want them kind of protected behind these depots, behind your wall in, so that if an attack does actually come up, these aren't just completely out in the open, exposed like that. Particularly, you don't want your supply depot just permanently down after that. And you could see that the barracks wasn't building something for a little while there, despite the fact that we've got a lot of minerals there and enough supply at the time to do it. He's going for a semi-fast command center, so he's going to go down and check out whether or not he can expand, and he's probably going to be able to. He did actually go out and scout, get some decent scouting information, was able to actually see that, yes, there is an expansion that is actually completed down here, and able to see kind of what's going on, spawning pool and evo chamber going down. So he's got a decent idea of what the Zerg player is doing, which is something that often at the lower ends of things people do neglect. Excuse me if my voice gives out at all during this as well. I've actually had strep throat for the past week and just kind of coming back to it, but wanted to do a video, and I do feel my voice is a little weak, but bear with me if it's not the same it usually is. Here's what I'm talking about in terms of building facilities that we don't actually intend on using right away. First of all, you want to always shift click your SCVs back to the mineral line. When you're building something, shift build that and shift send the SCV back, so the moment it's done, they just immediately go back. You don't want these guys idle sitting around. But also, 2 engineering bays implies that you want to do double upgrades at the same time. Not only was there actually a long period of time there that one wasn't being used, but the second isn't actually going to be used at all. He's got enough resources to start this upgrade, or did for a moment and does here again now, but he's not actually doing so. So why did we put that engineering bay down if that's not going to be used at any point? And it really doesn't get used any point soon. We'll check back in on that a little later. The command center goes down in the expo, does start training a couple SCVs. Generally, it is more optimal, though, just to go right up to an orbital command. You're going to get more return off starting to get those mules out of there. So you want to be turning that in. Often people will do it even before they float it down so that it can build up energy on the way down. And again, you can just get a lot more mules out a lot faster. The Zerg army kind of running around. He's now aware that this is in the area, and we are quite well defended here. I do like this sort of composition, knowing that he is facing a speedling army. There was a fair bit to indicate that that was the case. And just kind of rips this apart pretty good here, but doesn't really do a lot with this. You can see that a couple Hellions are sent out, but immediately pulled back, and his whole army is just pulled back into his base. Well, if you just crush the main force of the Zerg player, and that was a reasonable commitment to a number of Zerglings that are out at this point in the game. Odds are, and he is, just completely on that tech path. So with about 8 Hellions and a nice Marine backup to that, there's no reason not to kind of go out and maybe make a pressure push against that. At least force the Zerg to continue to make some more units instead of investing in his economy. Maybe check to see whether there's a third base going down here anywhere. And you're going to be able to get away with the Hellions probably anyway. That's not a good idea for a bunch of speedlings to just be chasing them down. So it would be nice to be a bit more aggressive here. Again, the orbital command not really doing anything. The upgrade for level 1 attack was actually done before the upgrade for the infantry armor was even started. And we haven't started on level 2 of the upgrades yet, and in fact just now starting the armory that's even going to allow it. So again, you have to question, why were there 2 engineering bays down if we're only actually functionally using one of these at any given time? That could have been an extra barracks. We could be spending these minerals a lot better. You can see we're just not using these facilities to the fullest extent. The tech lab is here, and Stimpack is not yet being researched, and we're like 11 minutes into the game. Again, unused, factory being unused, no technology being upgraded there. Blue Flame would be a decent investment with so many Hellions. You obviously want that sort of upgrade, knowing that you're up against a bunch of speedlings. And he hasn't scouted in a while. It'd be nice to drop a scan, see what's going on, try and run a Marine in there, an SCV in there, try and get some idea, do a Hellion run by, something like that, just to get a sense of what the Zerg is actually doing over there. So the lack of scouting is really playing a big part in this, and he doesn't really know what to what to do at this point. He's adding on a few medevacs, but the army composition is basically the exact same as it has been. Get the mildly amusing choice. I think he literally built this missile turret just so that he could make that Overseer move back a little bit, which is kind of cute. Again, going for the weapons level 2, but only on one engineering bay, and this one's already done the first thing. We're just leapfrogging between the 2 of these. They haven't really overlapped at any point during this game, so again, there's just no reason to have 2 of those out, unless you're actually using them, which would be nice to do. Checking back in on gas, we can see that 1 SCV for each of these gases, so I think he sent them to build. The builder started mining, but he hasn't diverted more to gas. And you can see with 1,500 minerals and the gas is really the capping factor on what he's able to tech to, upgrades that he's able to do, anything like that. The other concern is obviously the supply blocking at this point, that we're at 72 out of 73 supply, so this Marauder can't be built. We can't really get anything out of here. Can't continue with additional medevacs, Vikings, anything like that. It would be nice to get a couple tanks out onto the map in strategic positions on these cliffs. You've got a ramp, you've got this cliff overhanging everything. You want to be using that sort of positional advantage as a Terran player, but we just don't have any of that. Finally, we do get these two things going on at the same time, which is great to see, but it's just a little too late at this point, with our army values being a supply of 79 to 134. The Zerg has just gotten a little bit out of control. The Terran player doesn't know what he has, doesn't know that this army composition is now not really good against what the Zerg army has in terms of the roaches. Just the roaches alone could potentially just walk through this, especially if there weren't the two Marauders there. Even then, I think they would have a decent chance of making it. You can see with the Banelings coming on, really that Terran army just had no chance. It was much bigger to begin with, the Zerg force was, and Damson has to GG out of the game. With just the addition of, say, a few tanks out of the factory, something on these high ground positions, a little more meat up front, say the Marauders up front, to tank some of the Baneling hits, or even just some form of map awareness that he can micro back and actually get some control of his army there. But we can see when that comes up, there's just literally no movement out of the Terran player as this moves up the map, and that's a problem. He's also not aware of the changeling in his own army that's letting the Zerg player know pretty much throughout this entire game what the composition of the army is, the exact position that it's in, and so on. So he just knows that this is going to be a complete walkover. Again, supply blocking just playing a really big role, and just no movement as that comes up. Medevacs really just don't even have time to heal anything. At that point, infested Terrans come out, obviously take those down, and that's the end of the game. But overall, if you just look, one, at the things that I was pointing out using control groups, you can see the infestors are on a separate hotkey so that he can control the special abilities, whether it's the fungal attack or the infested Terrans that he throws down. He's got his whole army on another hotkey, so this 22 is pretty much everything that's going on there. On the number 2 hotkey, he's actually got his 4 hatcheries queued up so that he can be producing out of those facilities. So the Terran player wants to definitely have all his facilities on some sort of hotkey so that we're not getting this sort of production gap that's happening. If this army was just a lot bigger and a lot more spread out, if it was the same size as the Zerg army, well, if it took that many Banelings to take everything out, and then all of a sudden you've got an army of that size again to fight this, well, now you've got maybe more of a fighting chance. This is a lot more of a high-tech army than the other one was, but you've got a fighting chance at that point, whereas we just don't when it's like half the size and it gets caught flat-footed and it's the wrong type of composition. The tech, or not the tech, but the economy just never got really better. It never got to the point that it was really out of control. He kind of expanded to the third base, but only ever got like 3 or 4 SCVs over there. Wasn't really spending his money anyway. The real cap was on the gases, that there was just nothing really mining at these gases. These were never actually saturated, only had 2 guys going at any given time, and that's just not something that's going to be able to produce enough gas to spend the type of minerals that you want as a Terran player at this level. So overall here, using the facilities and just helping you spend money to help you spend money in the future, that's what you should be focusing on, Damson. And same with anyone out there of any race at this sort of level. Those are the key things that you want to look at. You want to get your economy up, get the facilities, use those facilities to defend yourself while adding more on at every opportunity. Every time that you look up here and see 150 minerals that you can't spend right now, you're looking at all your buildings and you see, okay, that's making a marine, that's making a marauder, that's making a tank, and I still have resources left over right now and I can't spend it. Then you put down another barracks, you put down another factory, you make another gateway, you make another hatchery if you're a Zerg player. You don't always have to expand as a Zerg player. Just put down another hatchery, and that's what you produce out of. So spend money. That helps you spend money in the future. So hope that helps, guys, and thanks for watching.